Aloha and welcome to Career Connect, brought to you by Leeward Community College's ASUH and Career Central. This is your go-to in-person podcast for all things career. Whether you're figuring out your passion, preparing for internships, or getting ready to crush it after graduation, we've got your back. Tune in for real talk with alumni, industry professionals, and campus insiders who will share tips, tools, and stories to help you level up your future. On today's episode, our host Zadon Padello is joined by Johnann Souza, an accountant at TRUSTA. Today, we dive into her story on how she got into accounting, the problems she's faced, and how her academic experiences shaped her career journey. Join us as we hear their story on this episode of Career Connect.
Thank you so much for joining us today. It's an honor to have you here. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, where you're from? Yeah.
Well, I'd like to say thank you for the opportunity for inviting me here. My name is Johnann Souza. I'm from Waipahu. Born and raised in Waipahu. I'm currently a certified public accountant working as a staff accountant at TRUSTA and Accountancy Corporation, which is located in downtown. So beginning my career, I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I came here to LCC right out of high school, and I was just taking my liberal arts, and then I realized that wasn't what I wanted to do. I took 3 semesters, I believe, if I remember correctly, and then I stopped. I just quit school in general, and then I was working. And then not until about 2017, I realized that I wanted to do a little bit more with my life. So I came back to LCC, took a few classes, and then realized that I loved accounting. So then I transferred over to University of Hawaii West Oʻahu, where I got my bachelor's in business administration with a concentration in accounting. And from there, I got an internship at TRUSTA, luckily, and I stayed there. And I loved it. It's a very interesting field to be in. I ended up going on to take the CPA exams and passed those, and then I went back for my Master's of Accountancy at St. Joseph College of Maine.
Nice. And, you mentioned that you had this idea of, going to college, but you found that, at the time wasn't really the best for you. And you're trying to figure out what you really wanted to do. And I think that's the good thing about Leeward Community College as well. I was given the same ultimatum. I was so persistent with my family, and I was like, you know what? Whatever college in the mainland accepts me, I need to get off this rock. Just let me. And then I started thinking about it, and I was like, maybe Leeward is that place to go, because I graduated high school and I didn't even know what I wanted to do. So same thing, similar to you.
Most people don't, and that's normal.
Yeah, and also for the cheaper costs and all of that stuff as well.
Yes.
But yeah, so what inspired you to be an accountant?
So my mom was actually an accountant. She worked for Napa. So I didn't exactly know what it was, but I loved math in high school. Oh. I know I loved math. I loved numbers. So I was like, let's try it. So I took, I believe my first semester back, I took the 201, Accounting 201. And I liked that. So then I went back and I took 202 in the next semester. And I was like, you know what? I like it. It makes sense. Accounting makes sense. So I just rolled with it.
Yeah, I think it's good. You always have those classes that just spark your interest.
Yes.
Prior to when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, it was up until my senior year where I was like, you know what, I like robotics, I like building stuff with my hands, this and that. But there's always those courses that just spark your interest. And yeah, so essentially, how has your educational journey helped you within the field?
The educational journey, it helped a lot because it helps you to realize that I was a lifelong learner. I do love learning, and accounting, it's just that. If you want to keep going further, taking more classes, it all ties into the accounting. So But I will say that the accounting classes and real world in a CPA firm or real world accounting, there is a learning curve, but it's a great start to furthering your career.
Yeah, and you mentioned that you're certified. I actually had no idea that you had to be certified. I thought you just needed to, take your courses, this and that, and do your interview, and then you get hired.
So you actually don't need to be certified to become an accountant. You could just, I know LCC, I believe they have a certificate in accounting. You can take bookkeeping courses. So you don't need to be certified to become an accountant. It just helps further your career.
So it's more of like it's kind of like a suggestion. Like it kind of just pushes you within the field.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So inside of these classes and even like outside in your own personal life, are there any like skills that you kept with you, even like something you've learned from your family? Is there like skills that you've learned that you apply in your current job?
I wouldn't say, I think perseverance, I wouldn't say it's a skill, but perseverance and being resilient is very important. I mean, not even just in accounting, in life in general, but accounting, there's a lot to learn. So you need to be willing to learn and, bounce back.
Yeah.
What I learned in my first year at the CPA firm is that, like I said, what you learn in school, it's totally different from actual real world accounting. So there is a learning curve, and I had to realize that, I'm not meant to know everything in your first year. You need to remember that you're gonna learn along the way, and that's the way that you need to think about life too.
Yeah. And you're as a personal accountant, like I know you're dealing with a wide variety of customers or clients, my bad. But you're working with a diverse amount of clients. So what are like some of the struggles that you faced as an accountant, working one-on-one with some clients?
I think it's different personalities and different. Living here in Hawaii, there's also different cultures. We also the firm that I work at. We do have a lot of local clients and international clients.
Yeah.
So there's also learning and knowing that people are different. So just interacting with different people in different ways, I think.
Yeah, I think that's one skill that, is essential in a lot of the jobs, especially here in a diverse culture like Hawaii, where you have people from many different backgrounds. I think it's important to, adapt to the many different personalities, different cultures, and all of that type of stuff as well. And yeah, so I know this is this is like a jump to the side, but I heard that there's actually what's the difference between like a bank and a bank and an accountant? Like all of that stuff. Yeah.
So the bank is where you actually hold your money.
Okay.
You can go and put your deposits. Accountants, we help you to not necessarily manage your money, but just keep track of it. So for example, I work in audit where we help companies we help them with their financial statements. So there's different levels of financial statements that an auditor or that a company can have. So for example, as a company, if you want to get a loan from a bank, you're borrowing money from the bank. As a company, the bank might want to see how your company is doing, if they want to loan you the money. So our job as an auditor would be to help give the bank assurance that this company is they'll be fine. They'll be able to pay back their loan.
Yeah, and I think that's also important. Since we do live in Hawaii, we're starting to see an influx on small businesses, family-owned businesses.
Yes.
And so just tell us about experiences with that. Have you ever had to assist any of those small businesses?
So I have. I've been able to help with a little bit of smaller companies. We just provide guidance. That in that sense, we help them with guidance. There's also clients where we help them with their bookkeeping. So we do make sure that their books are good enough to present to the owners or a third party.
So I know you mentioned that you're good at math. Is that like an essential skill for an accountant? I mean, because I'm thinking you have to be good with like your numbers and all that stuff as well. So is that essential for an accountant?
Honestly, it is not.
Really?
I mean, when you think about it, we have computers, we have Excel, we have calculators. So you
Yes.
don't truly need to know, like, be good at math. So on it, in my experience, I've learned that math is not
Yes,
a
I
big
mean,
thing.
that's a lot of fields nowadays too. I mean, of course, it's good to have the foundation. It's good to
Yeah.
understand the different courses that you're taking and all that stuff, gain the valuable insights. And like, for engineering, I mean, you're so like scared. Oh my God, calculus 4, I have to take that. And then when you get into the field, yes, like you said, you have Excel, you have all of these different systems to assist you along the way in the field. It's just great to get a grasp on all
Yes,
of that
and just
stuff.
be aware of the calculations that you'll need to use.
Yeah, you have to at least know how to use the systems as well too. Yes, but what are this? How does somebody like know that they'll like accounting is a best fit for them?
So I know there's a stereotype that accountants are introverts and they just stay in their cubicle and that's all they do is run numbers. But truly, if you're in public accounting at least,
Yeah.
you have to be personable, you have to be out there. There's a connection. If you think about, so I don't do taxes, but if you think about a tax accountant or
Yes.
somebody doing your taxes, you still have to communicate with people and be it's a service. Accounting is a service if you think about it.
Yeah.
So you still have to be able to communicate with your client, with others, and be personable. So I think it's not truly a person. I think puzzles, I love the way I think about it too is accountants like solving puzzles
Yeah.
or researching. Researching is a big part of accounting.
Really? I thought like things are just, in their own area. I
No.
mean, I understand organization, but
No, so
research.
it's really not. There's standards that you have to follow. If you think about taxes, you need to know IRS rules, all of the codes. There's a whole lot of research involved, which I did not know when
Oh
I
my
first
God.
started.
I think that like hearing it must be scary though. You're just, and that makes me like, that makes me think, as you mentioned, like that big jump,
Yes.
from the classroom to this. And so like, but I wanted to like know, like, what are like some of the benefits of being an accountant? I mean, for yourself, like, what are some things that
So
you've,
for myself, I've grown a lot in my career and I've been able to travel. So in public accounting, I've been able to travel to New York, to San Francisco. I believe I'm going out to the Big Island next week. Or
well, good luck on
sometime
that
this
trip.
month, yeah. So there's a lot of opportunity out there. It's not just public accounting. So you could also go into a private company, become an accountant there, bookkeeping. In public accounting, you don't just, so there's tax is one service within public accounting. There's also audit and assurance, which helps companies with financial statements. And then you also have advisory services. So that involves bookkeeping for clients, also providing them with guidance. So there's a lot of, it's not just sitting at your desk. Like there's a
Yeah.
lot of opportunities within.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, same thing with like the banks and stuff as well. You think that you just sit in a cubicle typing on your computer all day, talking to maybe like 4 or 5 people, and then just like sending them on their merry way. Helping them, servicing them, and just like sending them. And so, as an accountant, like what other roles like are there? I mean, I know you mentioned like all like the bookkeeping and stuff, but what other, like if you pursue a degree in accounting or business and all that stuff, what are the different jobs you can get?
So I recommend going to become a certified public accountant. You get a lot of experience working in a public firm, a CPA firm. So I have gained experience because I get to work with a variety of industries. I've worked with hospitality, nonprofits, construction. I've also been able to help with a few consulting and advisory services with acquisitions. And then you can also go private, which would be involved with working specifically for a company, and you become a bookkeeper. You help that company with their accounting books. So it's recording all the transactions, making sure everything ties. And then you could also, there are smaller firms and a lot of different firms that help with bigger companies or smaller companies. There's a whole lot that you could do.
I think it's great to, to branch off and be able to, be open, be exposed to all these different roles. For me, myself, I just thought that there were like the big three for like as an engineering student. I thought there was only like the big three. I thought there was only civil, mechanical, and electrical engineering. But I think it's good to branch off and see what different positions you can get inside of the work field. And like, I don't know, the one thing that just like sticking to my mind is, that big jump between like school and from school to the work field. And so that sounds very scary. And so like, what are some advice for students who are planning to pursue accounting, and like, how can they best be prepared for the real world of accounting?
I think the best advice that I could give is to increase your research skills, at least so that you're able to research more efficiently. And then also utilize your resources. So like, I know a lot of people are afraid of AI, artificial intelligence,
Yes.
that there are people that think that it's going to take away accounting jobs,
Yes.
but it's truly not. If you think about AI, I don't know if you've heard that there's a lot of hallucinations with AI. There have been cases where, so AI, if you ask artificial intelligence a question, sometimes it'll spit back information that's not real. It makes up the information.
Yes.
It hallucinates. So you can utilize that resource, but then you also need to research and make sure that that answer is correct.
Yes.
So increasing your research skills, I think, is a big benefit, because as an accountant, you do need to know your standards. You need to know what's right, what you can do, what you can't do. And it's honestly not always black and white. In school, it's easy to find the answer because there's already an answer. Yeah. But when you're in the real world, there's no clear-cut answer for some problems. Sometimes you might have an answer where it'll be one way, or it might be another way. And then you ask somebody else, and they'll come back with a completely different answer. So it's researching and being able to come to the best conclusion possible based on what you research.
Yeah, I think with, AI coming up, I think a lot of people over-rely on it. And, for me, it is a tool I use. It's just how to effectively use it as well. I think some people just throw it into ChatGPT and then they just expect the right answer. Do you have any advice for students who are trying to pursue a career in accounting? Yeah.
I think some great advice is to not be discouraged, to just keep on pushing through, especially after you graduate or if you find a job. Is, like I said, there's a huge learning curve. So just keep pushing. You're not expected to know everything. Just be a lifelong learner. Just continue to learn and do your best. Ask questions. I know that that's a very difficult thing as a staff or somebody first starting, is a lot of people are afraid to ask questions. They think that, they're giving me this job, this task to do, that I'm supposed to know what to do. As a college student, getting out, normally it's your first real career job, it's your first adult job. So you're not expected to know everything. Just realize that they know you're learning.
Yeah.
So just ask.
Yes, thank you so much for all your insights. I think your story is truly inspiring, and I think beyond just accounting, I think a lot of students will find what you're saying and all your advice to be very inspiring as well. And yes, thank you so much. It was nice talking to you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Mahalo for tuning into Career Connect. We hope today's conversation gave you insight, inspiration, and a few takeaways you can apply to your own journey. If you're a Leeward Community College alumni or current student and ready to take the next step, Career Central is here to support you every step of the way. Schedule an appointment with us online, and don't forget to subscribe to Career Connect for more stories, advice, and pathways. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep moving towards your future.